Hello, my name is Vaikuntan Rajaratnam. I'm a consultant hand surgeon. Today we're going to look at mobile learning in the workplace. In the healthcare professions, we are constantly familiar with the learning opportunities within the work environment. Mobile learning allows us to deliver cost-effective and efficient ways of engaging our staff in mobile learning in the workplace. The facts are 94% of adults have mobile phone in the UK and the 51% have a smartphone. So the ubiquitous device is a great platform to deliver mobile learning to anybody who's an adult learner. The evidence is very clear that there's tremendous benefits for mobile learning and there are tremendous drivers for mobile learning. It is quite clear that industry and businesses recognize mobile learning and its cost effectiveness. It is clear that for any learner to succeed in learning, they have to be motivated. For motivation to occur, there must be an arousal of the curiosity that must be sustained and maintained. The content of the learning should be relevant to the values of the individual and the desired goals. And there must be reassurances that the learner will succeed in the outcome, and the outcomes of the learning should be consistent with the personal incentives of the learner. And a few other points that will ensure that the learning will be sustained is that the learner must realize that he has a gap in the knowledge, and the content and the knowledge that he is going to gain will be meaningful and that he will succeed in mastering that task, and the outcomes would be satisfying for the individual, and a sense of self-regulation is important so that the learner is in control of his learning. So in developing the content for mobile learning, it is important that it is specific for mobile devices, that it will allow for display and in various operating systems, and it can be easily integrated with learning management system to ensure that the learning records can be monitored and stored. To study the learning needs of an environment, one of the methods and models used is the human performance model, is to analyze a gap in the performance of the worker. So if we have a healthcare professional who fails to perform for whatever reason, and we expect a certain level of performance, then the gap in the performance can be utilized as a need for learning to occur if the failure to perform has been identified as due to lack of competencies or skills. It is clear now that the evidence shows that most workers are willing to use their mobile devices to perform learning on the go for their job. 1 in 4 are downloading apps on their mobile phone for education or training purposes, and 75% of individuals are downloading apps on their mobile devices. The type of technologies that are most commonly used by mobile learners is once again mainly due of the video media content. Though their online books are also quite popular, these are the types of technology that are used by mobile learners. So therefore, in creating a mobile learning structure for the workforce, it is obviously very important to identify there is a need for it, and there are various models that can be utilized to identify these learning needs in the environment. And then the learning objectives have to be clearly defined, and it has to design to use content that is meaningful and the contents that is relevant to the work. And there must be support during the learning phase, and mobile devices that are commonly used and ubiquitous at all times with every worker is usually a smartphone, though at one time tablets were very high. Videos are an important component of content creation, so that these are very useful in learning, and they must all be aligned to the mainstream knowledge and learning that is required. There must be opportunities to share and collaborate the various learning materials with curation, i.e., where one worker may add on more meaning to a resource and pass it on to the others. And allowing workers to bring in their device has to be an important strategy for this to work. There are lots of confusion about mobile learning. Is it anytime, any place? In fact, yes, you can access learning anytime, any place, but learning needs to have a structure in which it has to be learned in blocks. Just-in-time learning is a possibility for that time in a particular event at the work to get enough knowledge to perform the task. But for learning to be meaningful, it requires sequencing and continued learning. Though it is mobile, a lot of attention cannot be given when there is too much of distraction in the environment. It is not just an extension of e-learning, because mobile learning is quite different. The strategy and the implications are quite different from e-learning. The other aspect is it is an extension of distance learning only to the extent that how much of the learning strategy has incorporated mobile learning into the. One of the great things about mobile learning is contextualizing the learning content to the individual's need and environment. With the ability of augmenting reality and virtual information, it can enhance the learning process with the use of the mobile technology. It also allows for not just passively receiving knowledge, but also augmenting this with the personal experiences, and therefore being able to share the collective knowledge of the work of the learners to the rest of the learning community. It allows for adaptive learning to occur with the use of the mobile device, and it gives the ownership of learning directly in the hands of the student. So, mobile learning is here to stay. Teachers would now have to incorporate the strategies of mobile learning into their own learning program. Content has to be bite-sized, it has to be just in time, it has to be push learning and pull learning. Students are able to bring their devices to the class. Students will use the devices to learn, to enhance their learning, to curate content, to enhance content with their contribution, and they can use these technologies in the classroom to engage one another, and very contextual and relevant materials can be delivered to the learner. There are risks for mobile learning. The push to mobile learning will further entrench the division between those who have digital devices and those who do not. The distractions is a big threat because of multiple objects requiring our attention. It can have an uncontrolled and misleading effect on outcome based on the mobile learning, the Hawthorne effect and the Dr. Fox effect. The Hawthorne effect is when individuals improve in response of the fact that they are being observed, that is being monitored through mobile learning. And the Dr. Fox effect is when something that is delivered so effectively and elegantly, even though the content is poor, is given better responses. And sometimes there's no clear evidence on what is the return on investment in mobile learning.